Remothered Broken Porcelain is a hard game for me to review. On one hand, Broken Porcelain can be beautiful at times, with vivid imagery, a foreboding atmosphere, and a story that can be beautiful and heart-wrenching at its best moments. Unfortunately, the package that it is contained in is a broken mess that most players won't want to slog through just to get at its brief moments of beauty underneath. And after having played through the entire game, I don't blame them.
When I
The story of Broken Porcelain is both prequel and sequel to the previously released Remothered Tormented Fathers. Throughout the main story of Broken Porcelain, you'll be playing as Jennifer, a young girl who has been brought to the Ashman Inn to work as a maid, and who was repeatedly mentioned in the first game, but never actually seen. It isn't very long, however, before things start to go wrong, as all of the inhabitants of the inn start to go crazy every time the sound of a metronome plays over the loudspeaker. Now, that's all I'm going to say about the story, in case the game actually gets adequately fixed. But the story isn't half bad, and allows you to enjoy the Dario Argento-inspired atmosphere, as long as the actual game itself gets out of the way. The main portions of the game you'll be hiding and sneaking around the inn, trying to complete the various tasks that are requested of you. When the gameplay is at its best, this can be fun and heart-pounding as you try to avoid a crazed stalker and sneak around them while your tasks need to get done. This aspect is very similar to the first game, though they did decide to streamline objectives so you rarely have multiple things that you are looking for at any given moment. For the most part, this works, but sometimes your instructions can be so incredibly vague that I would often stumble into what needed to be done rather than actively put it together on my own.
They're coming!
Sir, the girl. I can't find her.
Kiss my ass, dickhead!
Along with goal-specific items that you need in order to push the plot forward, you will also find various items that you can use that are supposed to help you when sneaking around. Too bad most of them are useless. You can obtain rope that can be used to bind doorknobs in order to slow your stalkers down, but I didn't run into a single situation where it was beneficial to do so. You can also obtain items that you can throw or place as diversions, but the diversions that you place don't tend to distract the pursuer for very long, and sometimes they simply don't recognize them at all. While being chased, you can sometimes throw these items directly at the pursuer in order to stun them. However, this ends up being negligible most of the time, as the time they are stunned for is such an insignificant amount, you may as well have just kept running. On paper, even with its issues, the main gameplay loop here sounds like it should make sense. Get key item, avoid pursuer, and move forward through the story. Steps that are very much in line with the first game. However, this game also added a limited form of combat into its repertoire, and while the game was stumbling before, here it falls flat on its face. Until you get a ranged weapon later on, Jennifer can only attack enemies in one of two ways. The first way is to sneak up behind them while you have a defensive weapon in your inventory. Doing this will allow you to stab the enemy with whatever you have. This, frankly, doesn't work. The game gives you a starting pursuer to try and practice this on, but every time I would try to sneak up behind her, she would inevitably always turn right before I'd have the opportunity to strike. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this. Every single damn time I try to sneak up on her, she'd turn around. And here's the thing, this confrontation with the pursuer isn't optional. It's mandatory. One time I got lucky and managed to rush up to her and stab her, only to find out that wasn't enough. No. You have to do it again. So I had to lose her, find another weapon, fail to sneak up on her 20 damn times, before finally managing to do it and knocking her out to obtain the item I needed. So I reached out to pick up the item and... Are you f***ing kidding me? She gets back up. The developers thought that after an ordeal like that, after a stealth segment that is so utterly broken that it was sure to frustrate the player, that they would make a fake out with the stalker only to get back up and you have to knock them out again. At this point, I was pretty much done. I was about ready to say to hell with this game and refund it. But I walked away, cooled off, and then came back to it. It was then that I remembered that in the original game, you could attack pursuers by letting them hit you to where you were nearly dead, and if you had a weapon on you, you could stab them with it. So I did that. 2 times. 3 times. 4 times.
What the hell is wrong with this game?
So, inevitably, the game was saying that I wasn't even close to knocking her down permanently the first time. When escaping from her for a moment, I found something I hadn't noticed before. A box off in the corner of one of the hallways. I had never noticed this box before, so I walked over and examined it, and this is an upgrade box. This game has a way to allow you to upgrade Jennifer's abilities, but the game never mentions it. Or if it did, it was so casually thrown out that I didn't even remember seeing it. So after upgrading Jennifer, I managed to scum hit my way through this first pursuer until finally she was down. Do you want to know how many times I had to hit her in total? Five times. The game expects you to stab her at least 5 times. And this was after I upgraded Jennifer's attack ability. Who knows how many times it would have wanted me to do it otherwise. I don't claim to be a master of game design, but Jesus, you don't have to be in order to explain how much of a failure this aspect of the game is. If you're going to force your player to go through a stealth segment where you have to knock out an enemy, you'd better make sure it works properly. I shouldn't have to have my character nearly beaten to death just to try and make it to the next area. This didn't get much better when you run into the next stalker who has a gun. This guy. This guy. You're informed pretty much immediately that you need to take this guy out with a fire extinguisher that's in the room. But to do that, you need to get past him, which is a problematic endeavor. You see, he has a tendency to push you up against solid objects, where he will then wombo combo you to death, and there is nothing you can do about it. This became apparent to me when I tried to get the fire extinguisher the first time. But that's okay, I got the fire extinguisher, and so, here's what the game wants you to do. It wants you to use the fire extinguisher, have it jam, so you go on a little bit of a chase. And then, when you can finally use it again, it will start a cutscene where you are automatically knocked out and moved on to the next scripted event. Unfortunately, this game never really conveys this well enough, and I didn't try it again for a while, leading to an unneededly long chase around the end. Oh, what's also really fun about this chase is that if you try and knock him out in any other ways, the game simply doesn't progress. You have to use the fire extinguisher and you have to get knocked out. There is no other way to proceed. While most of the encounters after this, including a particularly unique one at the end of the game, aren't as bad as these two were bad enough to pretty much ruin my mood moving forward. And in general, the whole game is like this. A mix of bugs, bad game design, and frustration with a decent story and beautiful artistic direction. Were this a movie, I would have lauded it for its creative vision, and despite the flawed aspects of its story, I probably would have enjoyed it. But this isn't a movie, it's a game, and no amount of artistic integrity will fix broken game design. I can overlook certain levels of a game being unpolished, and if a lot of these issues are ironed out in future patches, then I might be able to recommend the game then. But that's not where we are right now, and right now, Broken Porcelain is a broken nightmare in all the worst possible ways. Thank you for watching this review of Remothered. Obviously, I didn't particularly enjoy it that much, which is sad because I really did like the atmosphere in the game. If only the gameplay was better. Special thanks to Jack Freeman for supporting me on Patreon. If you would also like to support me there, you can do so by following the link down below. If you can't or simply don't want to support me that way, that's perfectly fine. There is still another way that you can support me. Now, how is that again? Ah, yes, that. I hope to have reviews and previews come out more regularly, but I might not be able to do them every week. But still, I hope you enjoyed it. I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.